All right. Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Marius Becherer. Welcome to my late night show. I'm a PhD candidate from the UNSW, Canberra, and I will quickly try to present you my ideas for a sustainable transformation to enable trustworthy collaboration. So IoT is basically like also a technology that can help to create innovation, as we heard from several speakers. Basically, IoT enables to orchestrate activities. It helps us to optimize resource usage. And here I want to give you an example. Maybe a few people of you know Uber or like vehicle on demand services where you can share like vehicles. What's happening here basically is that you have a driver and you can request a driver and the driver will pick you up and drive you somewhere. Basically, there have been several studies for such a service in several cities, and they basically found out that the flat size could be reduced for certain case studies. For example, Zurich, it can be reduced by 90%, that you only need 10% of the vehicles just by orchestrating activities in a more or in a better way. Also, there's not a much, basically the efficiency doesn't drop too much. So while 70 or 7/7 of the time is actually the serving time, and only one part of it is like the pickup time. So here you can see that if you like orchestrating activities efficiently, you can actually also save resources. Also, IoT helps us to improve the safety. We have here also a study which basically investigated the impact of intelligent traffic system, and they found out that if you, for example, make the traffic light smarter, that you improve the traffic system, you can also improve or reduce the waiting time. For example, for ambulances by 91%. And also you can respond to incidents in a fairly quick time. You see like a reduction of 70%. However, fairly often those applications, they're like bound to a certain organization. And fairly often when you want to like develop new technologies, we can actually use the devices beyond organizational boundaries. For our research, we see like two specific issues. First, there's like a technical challenge to manage basically large-scale IoT networks, and also there are social challenges. So how can you like trust the information of devices from different organizations? For example, in a vehicle, like if you like look in the future, and there might be a more smart vehicle, and they would report based on a sensing system, there is an accident. They will report this information to you, and based on that, you would basically reroute your tour. How can you actually trust this information? That there have been an accident. So there are like certain problems where we have to make sure that the information is authentic. For this, there's one approach to address this problem. It's called the social Internet of Things. What we're having here is like a network of devices which creating connections in ad hoc manner. And basically, we can represent those devices in a social network. What basically happens is each device evaluates the trustworthiness of another device, if it's trustworthy or not. And when you talk about trust, basically those relationships between one device and another device represents the trust. However, to come up with the trust is actually very challenging. Especially, it's basically like assessment of several parameters to assess if a device or the action or the information is trustworthy or not. So one part, what we found out in our literature study, that a lot of literatures, they don't consider all context-dependent features which are important to establish or to compute a trustworthiness. Also, what we found out that often the research, they don't consider like the constraints in the information environment. We can imagine if, for example, vehicles are like communicating to each other, we might have like the situation in a city where it's like very dense, there are like lots of devices and lots of information. But also in remote areas, there might be less devices and we don't have access to all the information. So therefore, we also have to consider when it comes back to uncertainty, we have lots of uncertainty in the IoT environment. Next, there is fairly often a trust model which have been developed for a scenario-dependent environment or for a specific scenario. So in the days or in traditional trust modeling, fairly often it's just one specific case. But nowadays, devices like vehicles or smartphones, they're moving around, they're like surfing in certain applications, and therefore we can't only like look at one specific scenario, we also have to take multiple scenarios into account. Based on those three issues, what we discovered, we basically looked how does existing or how can we improve existing evaluation platforms. And we found out that we have to consider several factors. For example, we have to look at different devices and services in an evaluation platform. We have to improve the situation awareness of trust models. We have to consider that devices are dynamic. So devices are leaving and joining a network. There might be incompleteness of information. We have to consider the uncertainty of device behaviors, but also of unforeseen events. For example, if probably maybe rain starts or other like basically events happening in a certain environment. For the scenario-dependent problems, we have to consider like the interdependency of scenarios, so they don't look like at one specific application, that we look at multiple applications that are happening like in one environment. And also we have to pay attention to complex spatio-temporal data relationships. For this, we basically came up with two applications that we want to consider in our evaluation platform. First is like an emergency response system. The second application is a traffic light prioritization request. So both of those are like applications which have been used in literature to investigate. However, we want to investigate those two applications in one evaluation platform. Based on that, first I want to present you the conceptual research framework to conduct our research. We have here our physical network layer, where we have like all our devices. And to establish basically the trustworthy collaboration, we have here on the side trustworthy collaboration enablers. To transfer from the physical network layer to the composed situation awareness layer, we are requiring a situation composition mechanism. Here we have other operations like information fusion, data uniformation. And then we want to recognize a certain situation that enables us that we can use ontologies to infer new knowledge and to map and align knowledge with external data. If we have our information, or if we like have the situation and we can basically infer new knowledge, we can then also like adapt a trust model for certain situations. This will be helpful for select a proper trust model. We can basically tune the trust model for the trust bootstrapping and in general for the trust lifecycle management. Now I quickly want to show you how it actually looks like. So here we have like a little map of Canberra, where the university is. And what we did basically is like create a simulation where we basically distributed certain devices, and we're basically having like also those two applications running. We have like an emergency response system running and also a traffic light management system. And now we basically trigger certain events to basically create uncertainty in the environment, where others are trying to basically avoid uncertainty. In our experiment, we want to actually introduce uncertainty to make it a bit more tricky and also to challenge trust models. So how this looks like when we represent the data, we have here also like devices represented as colored nodes. I think blue is the smartphones, brown is are the vehicles, and you can see how they basically like interacting in those maps. Now, whoops. Okay, unfortunately, you can't see like all the lines. So on my screen, actually, you just have to believe it. There are like certain lines between devices. And the point what I want to make is, if you're just having devices which are not sharing the knowledge, it's actually fairly hard in dynamic environment to gather new knowledge. However, if we also have devices which are sharing like the data, when they're like moving around, you actually can gain a lot of information. And that's also the point what I want to make in my last slide. If we consider this as like the design space for trust models, we can maybe think of three axes. We have one axis of the degree of social relationships, we have the degree of available trustees, and we have the degree of transaction history. And fairly often when you like, for example, have constraints in the information environment, we don't have like too much opportunities to create a trust model. With my research, I'm trying to create or to extend the surface of this plane, that we have like more opportunities to create trust models to be, which can be like deployed in various scenarios. Just to summarize my talk, the challenges to establish trustworthy collaboration in an IoT environment basically has like two challenges. The technical challenges to manage the large-scale network, and also the social challenge to enable trust between devices. My contribution is a novel evaluation framework for trust recommendation research, and I'm also proposing a conceptual trust recommendation research framework for trustworthy collaboration. Thank you so much and thanks for listening.
Yes. So the floor is open for the questions with trust and curiosity. Yes, Ned?
So when you want to set up the system, how much? So thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. When you want to set up the system, how much domain knowledge do you have to put in? Or to ask the question the other way around, if you want to adapt it to a new domain, how much adaptation is necessary, or is there even auto-adaptation of the algorithms?
If we're talking about the evaluation platform, that's actually also the beauty of it. So for now, I started like with 2 applications, but also the idea was if I use evaluation platform programmed by myself, I can easily like add like another use case to it or another application, and therefore make it like actually more complicated and maybe create more uncertainties.
It was very good, and I was also referring to, you had this picture with the domain ontology at the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. So if we're looking at the domain ontology, actually in my existing research, also like the domain ontology consists of a multi-layer domain ontology. So I have like ontology specifically to represent the devices. I have an ontology to represent the trust network, but also those specific domain knowledge from certain domains can be also introduced into my concepts. So I'm basically building my ontology based on a Seraph standard, if that's maybe addressing your question, which basically considers a lot of different domain in IoT. So if you would like to extend that, you can create new ontologies based on a Seraph standard. And also,
this one is then the input to the trust weights.
yeah, so basically the ontology is one opportunity to infer knowledge and to map data with external data. So I want to like find the links between the situation, what I'm in, and from maybe previous or behavior or knowledge.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, grazie mille. Collaboration, trust, and sustainable transformation. Thank you for your contribution, Marius.